Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. There's a lot of teachings in the spiritual world, even now in the where science meets spiritual world, about the role of our mind on the body. Those of you with us last week at our International Yoga Festival heard Dr. Bruce Lipton speak so beautifully about the role of our thoughts, the role of our mind, the role of our beliefs, the role of our emotions on our physical health. So we all know, we know that's true on some level, but the question was, is it really just that? Meaning, if I'm sick, whether I'm sick with something that is lifelong, or I'm sick with a cold or a flu, or I'm injured, is really the best solution to all of this, the only solution to this, my internal psychological processes? If I, forgave more, loved more, let go more, really would I not have the cold or the flu or the injury or the ailment? And the last part of the question was, and if this is true, then of course, what about enlightened masters, sages and saints who had physical ailments? What about animals who get injured? And so it was a question regarding that intersection of the emotions and the body. And it's something that I think is really interesting because it's dangerous in our minds and in our lives to go either too far on the spectrum. So for example, the it's all physical belief. I'm sick because it's flu season. I'm sick because this person made me sick, or just I'm sick because the universe made me sick. And there's no interaction with my mind at all, is also very limited. It removes the role that our mind and emotions play. So it undermines the importance of the mind. And to swing too much in the other direction of it's all in your mind is also dangerous. We're living here, our existence, every aspect of our physical existence is an intersection of a lot of different variables. One variable is the karmic package we've come into the world with. So, born into an Asian family, you're going to end up with Asian bone structure. You're going to end up with a genetic predisposition to certain ailments. You're going to end up with a genetic strength against other ailments. born into an African family. You're going to end up with an entirely different host. Born into a Scandinavian family, an entirely different group. And we know this. Medical professionals and researchers know, for example, that people of certain descents are more prone to certain illnesses and certain ailments. We just know this. This is not an in-your-mind aspect. So that's part of our karmic package. You've got a predisposition to something that doesn't necessarily have to be just your cultural descent. It's the family you've come into. It's the genes you've gotten. It's the body structure you've gotten. It's the early experience you got. Your mother accidentally dropped you. She had come out of the shower, you were crying, she went to pick you up before she even dried off because she didn't even want to take the time to dry off before picking you up to cuddle you. But her soaking wet body accidentally dropped you. So depending on which part of the body you got dropped on, you're going to have different issues. They're going to affect you in a different way. And yes, of course, learning to forgive your mother for dropping you is going to be a very important aspect of your spiritual and emotional growth. And it may have some impact on that part of the body. But the impact on the body is not rooted entirely in your emotional response to the fact that your mother dropped you. We've got bones. We've got organs. We've got muscles. We've got immune system cells. Certain chemicals interact with cells of our immune system in certain ways. Again, we know this. We know that people exposed to certain chemicals are at a much greater risk for certain illnesses. Go to Delhi for a few days. Take long walks outside. Breathe the air. Some large percentage of you are going to end up coughing and hacking in a few days. It's not because you're dealing with emotional issues pertaining to something from your past, and if you could just let it go, your lungs would clear up. You've been taking long walks in a city where it's the equivalent of smoking, more than 2 packs of cigarettes a day. That's going to have an impact on your lungs. And so all of that which we experience in our physical world is an intersection. My favorite example that I share about this is if I decide that what I'm meant to be on the earth is a basketball player, and I decide that's my highest purpose, is I must start for the LA Lakers. I must be the star of the LA Lakers. Well, I could be as pure in my intention, as clear, as grounded, as rooted in my desire. I could really do the very best. I could learn to dribble. I could learn to throw. But at, 47 years old and female and barely 5'3", it's really unlikely that the LA Lakers are going to decide that I'm the one they want to start for them. Not because there's something wrong with me emotionally, not that I haven't fully processed some emotional aspect of my history. Not that if I just could forgive my uncle, then it would all be okay and I would be able to play basketball. No, I'm the wrong height, I'm the wrong age, I'm the wrong gender. Not wrong in the big picture, but wrong for that particular thing. I grew up in LA in the 1970s when LA was one of the most polluted cities in the world. Almost everyone I grew up with has immunity issues. All of us who spent our early childhoods running around outside on days that in this day they would say, keep your children inside. They'd close school. It has an impact on the physical body. And so, should you find yourself afflicted with something very temporary like a cold or flu, something longer, don't convince yourself or let others convince you that it's just all in your head, that if you just could, work with it emotionally, it would all go away. That undermines the fact that there is also a physical existence. The spiritual teaching of this is all an illusion, it's all an illusion, it's all God, is true on one level. It's true on the highest level. It's true on the deepest level. And we are living a physical existence. Take a knife to me, cut me, I'm going to bleed. Regardless of how okay I am with my childhood, regardless of my relationship with my parents, regardless of anything. Take a knife to me, cut me, blood is going to come out. So don't feel badly. Don't doubt yourself that the reason you have something is somehow your fault in some way. If you could just think the right way, it would go away. And the other aspect is we know the power of the mind on every aspect of the body. That doesn't mean it's causational. That doesn't mean your mind has created it. You got bit by the wrong mosquito, you've got malaria. You didn't think it into existence. You drank some water from the wrong place. You have to stay near a toilet for a while. Again, you didn't create this. And the mind plays a very big role. And what that means is that how you interact with your illnesses and with your ailments plays a very important role on the impact they have on your life. There's two aspects. There's pain and there's suffering. And we tend to group them together, but they're actually separate. Pain is something very biochemical. You can measure it in the body. We know, the neurotransmitters, we know the chemicals, we know how it works. How if I stick my hand accidentally on a hot stove, how the sensory neurons are going to send that signal back into my spinal cord, how it's going to be registered. We know that. That's pain. Cut me with a knife, it's going to bleed. My body is going to send the right cells to that to heal it. I'm going to have a pain response that makes my hand go there, makes my hand know I've been cut so I can stop the bleeding. That's going to make me limp a little, take the weight off it. But suffering is the emotional response to the pain or the illness. The suffering is the, oh my God, why me? It's not fair. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with the universe. There's something wrong with karma. There's something wrong with everyone else. Whatever it may be, the suffering is my drama. I've got a cold. I've got a flu. I've gotten a broken leg. I've got an ailment. That's the molecules of my body. Now my mind kicks in and I have an emotional response to that. I'm always the one who gets sick. I've got a really bad immune system. I'm so weak. I'm this very, very fragile being. No, I can't do this, I'm not strong enough. No, I can't do that, I'm not strong enough. No, I this. And what happens is that ends up interacting also with the molecules of our body, with the cells of our body. And we end up creating that self-fulfilling prophecy. Not that we've brought on the illness, but that because our mind has gotten weak, and this isn't true in every case, but this is something that happens to a lot of us, the mind gets weak. When the mind gets weak, the body actually gets weak. And so I may find myself more susceptible to things. We also know that things happen to the body, to the saints, to the sages. I mean, if you look at the history of enlightened masters, Ramakrishnaji died of throat cancer. Swami Vivekanandaji died before his 40th birthday. Clearly, these were sages with clear histories. They were sages not with lingering emotional and psychological issues that were afflicting them. I mean, we could say, well, Ramakrishnaji, what is it you're not speaking that you've gotten this? We could do the whole psychodrama on him, but no. I mean, you could do it if it weren't him, but because it's him, it's not going to fly. He was one of the greatest enlightened mystics ever to live. There was nothing he wasn't speaking that created cancer in his throat. There was nothing he was holding on to in that way. It was karma of the body. It was the cells of the body reacting in a certain way, but he didn't suffer. He didn't have the emotional response to the suffering. In fact, when his disciples would talk to him and ask him about, the pain, he'd say, I don't have any pain. I have your throat. I have your throat. I mean, he was living in the throats of his disciples that were not afflicted. So there wasn't the emotional aspect to it. Our highest goal on earth is not how many days can you string together in a row without a cold or a flu. Our highest goal is not how many years can you live. How can you make sure that you never break a bone? I mean, obviously being healthy is nice. We all would rather be healthy than not healthy. But on a deep spiritual level, that's no marker for something. It's not that people who are afflicted with things are somehow any lower than people who are not. In many cases, they're higher. In many cases, they're actually taking negativity out of other people, out of other places. They're holding other people's pain in a lot of cases. So that's not the highest goal. The highest goal is how consciously can you live? So as Pujya Swamiji says, it's not the days in your life, it's the life in your days. And that's the goal. And so if you have a physical ailment, short-term, long-term, and you can use it to recognize, I'm not my body is sick, but I'm not sick. The throat is cancerous, the self is not cancerous. The self has so many throats to use. If you can use it to have that type of experience, then it actually becomes a gift. Because those not afflicted, we tend to forget that we're not the body. And when you get afflicted, the first thing that happens is we think we are the body. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm miserable. I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. And it's an incredible opportunity to recognize you're not the body and to have that spiritual experience. So, no, it's not all in your mind. And yes, the mind plays a very crucial role. So should you be afflicted, the question becomes not, how did my mind create this? But rather, how can I use my mind? How can I use my thoughts? How can I use my emotions? In this case, to have the highest spiritual experience I can. Along the way, if it heals my body, fantastic. But you know, the miraculous healing stories that we hear of, the miracles that we hear of, whether it's Bruce Lipton sharing them or other people who share them, there's one crucial element to them. Those miraculous healings that take place are always part of a spiritual experience. It wasn't that they thought themselves well. It was that in the midst of horrendous illness, they were given a spiritual experience, and that spiritual experience cured the body. Not that the lack of it had created it, but the spiritual experience was the main thing. And what they write about, what they teach about is always the spiritual experience. The fact that the body got healed was a great bonus. The spiritual experience was what was main.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single...
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival, taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. Is consciousness a phenomenon of the body? No. This is actually something I've thought a lot about. I'll tell you why I've thought about it. I'll take you back a step. A woman I knew very, very well, and with whom I had spent a great deal of time over the course of many years, developed Alzheimer's and slowly lost faculties and eventually, sadly, passed away. As she lost her mental faculties, she lost, of course, recognition of people. And along the loss of the recognition, there was a loss of relationship. Now, as a scientist, as someone who had studied neurology, I could tell you what was happening in her brain. I mean, we know on some level which aspects of the brain, which parts of the brain are impacted in Alzheimer's. We may not know exactly why it happens, but we can certainly look at it clinically and say, this is Alzheimer's. Okay, here's the dendrites, here's the connections, here's what's happening. So I knew neurologically what was going on. And I had a moment in which I thought, okay, now wait. This is a woman who has been in a loving relationship with her husband for 50 plus years. Does love exist in our dendrites and glial cells? I mean, is that the home of love? Well, of course not. I mean, anybody who's ever experienced love, I don't know, I'm not prepared to accept the fact that the deepest love I've ever felt is just a product of my glial cells and dendrites and, no. It's who I am. Right? It's core. It's deep, it's soul, it's spirit, it's consciousness. It's not glial cells and dendrites. But if neurologically that's all that's happening to her, it's not affecting her soul, it's not affecting her spirit, she's conscious, she's awake, where's the love going? And this bothered me for a really long time. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I asked a lot of leaders, a lot of people I trust. And over a couple of years, here's where I've come to with it. Consciousness does not exist in the body, meaning it's not manufactured by the body. It's not dependent on the body for its existence. And yet, our experience of consciousness is dependent upon the body. Here's a way to think about it. Michael exists. Okay, we all can agree he exists. I have 5 ways of knowing he exists. I can see him, I can hear him, I can smell him, I can feel him, I can taste him. Those are my 5 ways of interacting with my world. If I want it to really be my truth, if I don't want to just take your word for the fact that Michael exists. So if I close my eyes and Michael stays quiet, I'm not close enough to touch or taste him. He doesn't smell, so I have no smell. As far as my world is convinced, Michael no longer exists. Hasn't changed the fact that he exists. But I'm no longer able to interact with Michael. My experience of Michael has ceased to exist. It is dependent upon those 5 senses, or at least one of them. I need at least one of them in order to have any interaction with him on a level of existence. Consciousness exists. We are able to interact with consciousness through the physical structure of our brain. And one of the ways we know this neurologically is when different things happen in our brain, whether it's an injury, whether it's something like a stroke, whether it's a brain trauma, whether it's drugs you've taken, whether it's somebody stimulating a part of your brain, which actually they can do because the brain doesn't have any pain sensors. So should somebody ever have to go in for surgery that requires the scalp to be opened, they actually can go in with metal probes while you're wide awake and conscious because the brain doesn't experience pain. So from all of that, what we know is that things that have nothing to do with soul, spirit, consciousness, things that have everything to do with getting, banged or a stroke or a car accident or ingestion of certain chemicals changes our experience of consciousness. Talk to someone who's just ingested a lot of LSD about what consciousness is. Now, consciousness hasn't changed just because you've ingested a lot of LSD, but your experience of it has. Now, where has that LSD worked? It's worked on your brain. It's worked on the chemicals and the electrical patterns in your brain. Your experience of consciousness has changed. Get an injury, have a stroke. Different parts of the brain get impacted and damaged. Your experience of consciousness shifts. That of which you are conscious shifts. Consciousness hasn't changed. So when we think about consciousness, when we think about our soul, when we think about love, which was for me what brought the whole question up. The love exists, but her ability to interact with the love was impacted. That love was bigger and deeper and beyond the cells of her brain, but she no longer could interact with it. And so we require the physical structures in our physical brain in order for us to be conscious. Not just conscious in terms of the opposite of unconscious as in a coma, but spiritually conscious. We have no other way of interacting with it. If I go to meditate and I'm chanting my mantra, or I'm watching my breath, or I'm doing whatever my meditative practice is, well, it's my brain that's chanting my mantra. I mean, I know that sounds very superficial and material, but the truth is it is. That repetition, the memory of what the mantra is, the ability to enunciate the words, these are all properties of my very physical brain. The ability to watch my breath, physical brain. That which that which actually makes me breathe, the involuntary even action of breathing, brain, brainstem. So it's all, and as I go deeper and deeper into my meditation, the experience I'm having, as shallow and superficial as it sounds, is actually taking place in my brain. Now, from my brain, a whole cascade of reactions are taking place in my body. I feel it in my heart. But we know from brain scans, for example, one of the things that happens when you meditate is you lose the sense of where you end and the world begins. You lose a sense of the body in space. There's a sense of just oneness. Well, we now know with brain scans what part of the brain this is happening in. Where are the proprioception areas of the brain that end up becoming much quieter and not nearly as active when I'm having a meditative experience of union? Now, of course, that experience is of consciousness. The experience is of the soul. The experience is spirit. The experience is coming back to the source of who you are. But it's happening via your brain. The brain is the medium. Like Michael is happening for me via my 5 senses, or at least one of them. My experience of consciousness is happening via my brain. So it doesn't live there any more than Michael lives on my retina, or in my ears, or in my hand that's touching him. But he's able to be experienced by me through those, in the same way that consciousness is able to be experienced by me through my brain.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival, taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with Inspiration and Transformation. We're not running on, repeat cycle. It's not a matter of that, so much as a matter of a tapestry. If you could envision, though, a tapestry that literally had no borders. And so what we're living as a thread is at this very little intersection If we identify as the thread of who we are, it's this little intersection of time and space. Here I'm with a red one, here I'm this, maybe part of a flower, maybe part of a river. But if you step back and you see the entire tapestry, it all exists at once. For the thread, if you were an ant crawling from one end of the thread to the other end of the thread, it would be continuous. You'd go from flower to river to farm animal to, whatever it might be a tapestry made of. But actually the entire tapestry has always existed. It's just we don't have the vision to see it. And if you imagined that the tapestry literally had no beginning and had no end, we'd have to visualize it like that. But it's not that it's on auto-repeat cycle. Yeah, so we're not reliving something that's already happened. We're just living something that is part of a much bigger picture. We're living something that is part of a past, present, future. And we have free will. So here we have a tapestry of which we are a part, and you as the thread, or you as the ant on the thread, whichever metaphor works better for you, in addition to being part of the tapestry, of which the entire picture is visible, you also have free will. You're a piece of red thread today, but you'd rather be blue thread tomorrow, no problem. You can't change the color today because that's based on the colors that you put together yesterday. But you want to be a blue thread tomorrow? All right. You want to be a purple thread tomorrow? Doable. Well, right, so this is that's why I said this is the fun part. This is the and. Yes, it's a tapestry. Yes, the masters can say here, and you have free will to change it. Very, very quickly, for anybody who might not be here tomorrow, but it is a fun topic to delve into in more depth, the way that seeming irony has been explained to me is in two ways. One, that even though you have free will, because of your karmic package, how you're going to use that free will is also predetermined, which in and of itself is a paradox. The other way it's been explained to me, though, and which Pujya Swamiji says, is you can change that tomorrow. Yes, we can say this is written, this is your stars, here's your horoscope, and you have free will to change that. You cannot change the situation, but you can change how you react in the situation. So for example, and I'll leave you with this, let's say your horoscope says drowns in big wave. Might as well go back to my morbid example from the beginning. Drowns in big wave on the full moon. Okay? Well, here's where your free will comes in. If you get a horoscope reading that tells you that, or you have a guru in your life who can see that, the guru says to you, I don't think you should go swimming on the full moon. Got plans for the full moon? You're going to come here and sit right at my feet. You're not going to budge. And then you fight, and you say, oh, but I was supposed to go surfing on the full moon. And the guru says, you're going to sit here. Or you get a horoscope reading, and then you use your free will to say, okay. You can't change the big wave. Wave is coming. Your free will has nothing to do with the wave. Your free will has to do with how you interact with the wave. So the horoscope says big wave, drowning. You say, okay, not a good weekend for the beach trip. Or I'm going to go to the beach and sit on the porch and read. So this is the way that it's been explained to me of that interaction. Yes, it's written, and we have free will, and we have the benefit of the gurus, the sages, the ones who can see in our lives.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with Inspiration and Transformation. Is omitting the same as lying? So if we omit the truth, is that the same as lying? To me it is. There's a reason that when you walk into a court of law, they make you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Nothing that you can omit. And yet, and this is an important and yet, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks to us about tapas of speech, righteous speech, dharmic speech, spiritual speech. And that tapas of speech, that right speech, has to have three characteristics. It has to be true, but it also has to be kind and beneficial. And so simply because something is true does not mean that it should be spoken. If it is not kind and beneficial, it shouldn't be spoken. And so when we understand that and we look at that, we realize, well, okay, just because something is true, if it's not kind and not beneficial, I shouldn't speak it. This is what Lord Krishna teaches us. It's not the world I grew up in. In the West and in my life, it was always truth at all costs. Truth at all costs. Doesn't matter how much it hurts, you or the other person. If it's true, it's in the highest good. No matter what it may be, you must tell it, even if you haven't been asked. My favorite personal story on this was my last year of high school. I was 17, and my boyfriend, who was my first love, the love of my life, the soulmate that you can only have when you're 16 or 17. I mean, there's a very special quality to being in love when you're that age. But he was a year older and was going off to college in a different city. And my dad, who is a divorce attorney, and at that point had spent a few decades, now has spent many decades, divorcing people all day long, morning till night. So he and I were out to dinner in the beginning of my last year of high school. And he says to me, I can still picture the diner we were sitting in, and he says to me, so what's going to happen with you and Eric now that you're going off, that he's gone off to college? And I said, well, we're going to be together forever, of course, because we are soulmates. And I said, but we're going to have an open relationship. And my dad says, tell me about it. What does that mean? And I said, well, we're going to date other people, tell each other about it, be totally honest, and stay together forever. And so my dad says, okay, let me get this straight. You're going to date other people, tell each other about it, and stay together forever. And for me, the truth is the highest good. The truth, at all costs, truth will solve everything, vision of the world. I said, of course. And my dad, in what to me is just Parenting Hall of Fame, first place award, does not say to me, you crazy idiot. He says, well, that sounds very interesting. I look forward to hearing how that works out for you. And I love that story because 30 years in retrospect, it's so easy to realize, of course that's not going to work out. But the world that I came from was truth at all costs. Is it kind to tell your soulmate that you've been dating someone else? Of course not. Is it beneficial in the long run? Of course not. But because it was true, and because I hadn't yet read the Bhagavad Gita and didn't yet know this, we thought truth at all costs. So when Lord Krishna says it's got to be all three, now remember, truth is one of those three things. So he's not condoning white lies. He's not saying if it's kind and beneficial but untrue, you should say it anyway. Clearly the teaching is, if it's not all three of those things, be quiet. Just be quiet. And so I bring this up in response to the question because is omitting the same as lying? Well, not in that case. If you're purposely omitting something because you're afraid of the consequences, because you're embarrassed, because you're ashamed, then yeah, it's basically the same as lying. It's like the kid who comes home from school and mom says, how did your math exam go today? And, you say, oh, it went great. But you don't mention the fact that you also had a science exam which you failed. Well, she may not have known about it. She didn't know to ask. When she's asking about your exams, clearly she wants to know about all of the exams. You've omitted it because you'd much rather her be happy about your math exam than get in trouble for not studying science. But if you're omitting it because it's really not kind and not beneficial, then by standards much higher than the ones that I grew up with, not by my parents, by my own internal sense of the universe, then no, it's not the same. Lying is a purposeful lie. It's a sin. When you look at the yamas and the niyamas of the 8 limbs of yoga that Patanjali gave us, well, the first is nonviolence, the second is truthfulness. So it's right there at the very base of living a dharmic life, a yogic life. You have to be honest. But there's plenty of situations in which silence or a smile or a change of the subject is actually the most beneficial response to the moment. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.